My name is Marvin George. I am from Trinidad and Tobago. I am a Commonwealth Scholar here doing a master's program in theatre and development studies.
So what role do you think that performance and art has in political change and creating political change?
Well, I mean, in the Caribbean and in Trinidad, which is the particular context with which I'm familiar best, art and political change go hand in hand. I mean, nothing ever happens in Trinidad, and to some extent the Caribbean, without and I'm not talking about official discourses of politics and so on here, which is the official discourse is normally linked with some kind of official idea of development and so on and so on. I'm talking about grassroots politics, and the social changes are usually in some way marked or reflected in art, or have always used art as its base, as its stimulus. I think in an international sense, as in for example, for people in the UK, where the peculiarities of the Caribbean are not always, where an audience here is not always cognizant of the peculiarities of the Caribbean. I think reggae music and Rastafari, for example, is probably your easiest accessible understanding of how the two link. Bob Marley, as prophet, as musician, as whatever we want to call him, is invariably linked to political changes in Jamaica. For example, when Bob Marley finds himself in exile, in even if it's self-imposed or what have you, in England, in London, when he returns to Jamaica and does his concert, one of the things that he does symbolically is bring the two political leaders of Jamaica, where Jamaica has these internal conflicts between political parties, and brings these two leaders on stage as an act of a kind of political unification, as it were. That's Siaga and Manley. Siaga and Manley. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that I mean that's just one kind of by the way example.
Yeah.
But wherever in the Caribbean you find any kind of grassroots workings happening, there's always an undercurrent of art that is supporting it. For Trinidad, and the way Trinidad finds its link in the UK, for example, so as to make the link clearer, the link is essentially Carnival.
Yeah.
Carnival in Leeds is 40 years this year. Carnival in Notting Hill is not as old as in Leeds, because I understand Leeds is the older one. But those carnivals are based on something, and the ones that they are based on is the one in Trinidad. Yeah. And all of the discourses that run into this celebration that we call Carnival in Trinidad, that can today cavort itself as a commercial entity, or a commodified one where we can earn tourist dollars and so on off of it. Its base is in resistance. All of the traditional masquerades are political. The very first set of masquerades that hit the streets in Trinidad Carnival is something that is called Jab Molasi. It's a devil masquerade, and it's the reenactment of the conditions of enslavement. In an earlier form of masquerade, there's a military masking that happens on the street once Africans take to the street, and what they're doing is giving a parody of a British show of power that usually would have happened sometime around Christmas time. So essentially, what happens? What I'm getting at is that in performance, as we understand it in the Caribbean, wherever the performance happens, and it belongs to grassroots, and it's those mass ones. When I say mass, I mean MASS, the popular ones. Whenever we have those popular ones, the politics is always there. And if you're reading the performance on an ongoing basis, meaning if you're in the grassroots and you're reading performance, it's quite easy to recognize changes when it happens, or probably when it might happen, given the sentiments lodged in the performance.
Have you come across the World Development Movement before?
I haven't actually. I don't know why I didn't, but I hadn't until.
And out of interest, now that you have, what's your impression of World Development Movement?
Well, I mean, I'm not. I can't say that I'm properly familiar with what the organization does. I am, however, quite impressed with what the seminar on art and resistance seems to want to say, as well as the invitation of the likes of Ngugi and so on into that kind of discussion on an afternoon like this. You know, so I'm right now at my first phase, which is really I'm in awe at what I see happening. Yeah, okay. To be honest, I'm not quite familiar with all the other goings on of the organization.
Sure.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thanks very much for your time.
Problem. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.